Imagine you're the strongest person in your tribe. You can hunt, you can build a fire from nothing, you can outrun almost anyone. Now imagine you're alone. Here's the part that should unsettle you. Being the strongest person alive meant almost nothing. In the Ice Age, even the strongest human being on Earth could die alone, quietly, in a single night and never see morning. Not from a predator, not from starvation, not even from the cold. From something every human being is still vulnerable to today. For roughly 300,000 years, a human being alone in the wild wasn't a survivor. They were a countdown. And here's the strangest part. The single biggest reason ancient humans needed each other wasn't hunting. It wasn't predators. It wasn't even food. It was something most people never think about at all. We'll come back to that. But first, one question. If you had to survive completely alone for 1 week, right now, with nothing but your bare hands, do you think you'd make it? Drop your honest guess in the comments before we get into what the evidence actually says. Reason 1. Nobody can watch in every direction. Let's start with the simplest danger a human being faces alone in the wild. You have 2 eyes, pointing in one direction. In an Ice Age landscape full of cave lions, hyenas, and predators built specifically to strike when prey is distracted, that's a fatal design flaw. A lone human sleeping is a lone human not watching. Sleeping alone in that world could mean simply never waking up. This is why hunter-gatherer bands functioned like an early warning system with a heartbeat. While some slept, others watched the tree line, all night, every night. The group didn't just make people feel safer. It physically closed the one gap a lone human could never close alone. But predators weren't the reason humans became the most successful species on Earth. Something else mattered far more. Reason 2. One person cannot bring down a mammoth. Here's a number that should stop you for a second. A single adult woolly mammoth could weigh up to 6 tons, roughly 6 times heavier than a modern car, and could provide close to 500,000 calories of meat and fat, enough to feed 25 people for weeks. Now imagine trying to take one down alone with a wooden spear. You wouldn't just fail. You would very likely die, and your tribe would lose its best hunter for nothing. And if your best hunter died, the tribe didn't just lose a hunter. It could lose its food supply for weeks. Bringing down the largest animals of the Ice Age required something no single person could ever provide: coordination. Groups drove animals toward boggy ground where they'd get stuck. They used fire and noise to funnel panicked herds toward ambush points at river crossings. Every hunt needed several roles happening at the exact same moment. And if even one piece failed, the whole camp went hungry. But surprisingly, food wasn't even the most valuable thing a tribe could lose. Something else mattered even more. Something you couldn't hunt, store, or replace. Reason 3. The person who remembered the bad winter. Imagine this. The only person in your tribe who knows where food still exists, in the worst winter anyone can remember, suddenly dies. No map, no written record, no way to ask them again. That knowledge doesn't fade slowly. It disappears completely the moment they stop breathing. This is why elders in hunter-gatherer societies mattered in a way modern culture rarely appreciates. An elder who remembered a brutal winter 15 years earlier and knew exactly which valley still held deer when everywhere else went silent could save an entire tribe with a single sentence. Losing that person wasn't just losing a life. It was losing the only surviving copy of decades of hard-won information. But knowledge could still only save a tribe that had a future generation to pass it on to. And that raised a problem almost nobody expected. Reason 4. Raising a child took more than one person. If a mother died during childbirth 20,000 years ago, what happened to the baby? Who kept the baby alive? Because in many cases, the answer wasn't the father. It wasn't one person. It was the tribe. In the modern world, we barely have to ask that question. Back then, the answer determined whether that child lived at all. Human infants are born almost shockingly helpless compared to other primates, and stay that way for years. A newborn cannot feed itself, defend itself, or move on its own for a long time after birth. Far longer, relative to lifespan, than nearly any other species alive. Anthropologists have a name for what appears to have made this survivable: cooperative breeding. Mothers were not raising children alone. Grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, and unrelated members of the group appear to have shared the burden of keeping infants fed, warm, and alive, including stepping in completely if a mother didn't survive. Some researchers go further, suggesting human intelligence itself may have evolved partly because of this system. A child raised by many caregivers is exposed to more voices, more teaching, more protection than a child raised in isolation ever could be. So far, every reason has been physical. Watching, hunting, remembering, raising. All things you could, in theory, point to and explain. The final reason isn't physical at all, and it might be the one that mattered most. Reason 5. The big reveal. Most people assume ancient humans survived because they shared food, shared fire, and shared shelter. But evidence suggests something else may have mattered just as much. Something invisible. Something no archaeologist can dig out of the ground. Hope. Picture 16 hours of darkness, weeks of confinement, food running low, and the unspoken knowledge sitting over the entire camp that not everyone might see spring. That combination doesn't just threaten the body, it threatens something far more fragile. Morale, trust, the invisible glue holding a group of frightened, hungry people together instead of turning against each other. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. A tribe could still have food stored, fire burning, and shelter standing, and still fall apart, and still die, simply because hope ran out first. Starvation of the body is well understood. Starvation of the spirit killed just as effectively and far more quietly, leaving almost no trace for archaeologists to find thousands of years later. Ancient humans appear to have understood this instinctively, long before anyone could have explained why. Bone flutes found at archaeological sites date back roughly 40,000 years. Cave walls across Europe are covered not only in useful information about animals, but in shared ritual and symbolic art. Storytelling around the fire wasn't just entertainment to pass the hours. It was very likely one of the only tools available to hold a group's spirit together through months that could otherwise tear it apart from the inside. This is the reason that ties every other one together. It wasn't only hands for hunting, eyes for watching, or memory for remembering. It was the simple, constant fact of not being alone in a world that was actively trying to kill anyone who was. So think about everything you just heard. The eyes watching through the night so you could sleep. The coordinated hunts that fed entire camps. The elder whose single memory could save a tribe from starving. The children raised by many hands instead of one. And the invisible hope that kept people from falling apart when everything outside the fire wanted them to. For 300,000 years, humanity's greatest survival tool wasn't fire. It wasn't weapons. It wasn't even intelligence. It was each other. And after everything we've built since then, the phones, the cities, the delivery apps, that might still be humanity's greatest survival tool. Subscribe if you want to understand how ancient humans survived impossible worlds.